Harvey Hubbell. That's Tracy White, and this is uh this is part two. This is part two. How are you?
Part two.
Of Lost and Found. No, I do that all the time. What is it? Show and tell. This part two of show and tell. I gotta do one called Lost and Found eventually. I'll be
That's a
on
big
it. I'll always be lost, and then I'll be found. See, you witness it. Okay, this is Harvey Hubbell. Show and tell. Tracy White. Okay, hey.
yes.
So we just talked before in the first section, and I love your history and the hero's journey. Um, but I made this film. You're in it. Uh,
Yes.
Hopeville, and one of the things Diana King told me that I had to talk to you, and when I ran into you at a conference and I just saw you, we just jumped in there and we got all that
Yeah.
interview was just picked up in a conference hall on Hopeville. So let's talk about Hopeville, and I appreciate you. I appreciate all your time, your energy, and everything you do. But I appreciate you being in it.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I'm so glad. I didn't realize that Diana was the reason that you found out about me. I I love her. I know, she's among that great cloud of witnesses right now because that woman, when I met her, I just want to give honor to whom honor. I had sister locks at that time. And she walks up to me and she says, "Do you have a loctician?" And I see this diminutive little adorable woman asking me about sister locks and my loctician. I'm like, how in the heck do you even know about a loctician? But she did. And she was telling me how beautiful my hair was, how beautiful I was. Again, words are containers of power. And little did I know that she was going to introduce me to my another brother. That's you, Harvey. And Hopeville, just the name alone says it all, that there is hope. And hope is an expectation, a belief that there's something bigger, greater ahead that we can reach for. And that movie, especially at the end, when it shows this beautiful tapestry of humanity living in a peaceful space, celebrating each other's uniqueness, not castigating it, but embracing it. And it is just the most elevating documentary. And every time I see it, it makes me want to just keep pressing into this vision that's bigger than any of us individually, that there is hope, and that because words are containers of power, we know that literacy is at the heartbeat of a society that's civil, that is loving, that is purposeful, and that is a place where children can thrive and become the greatest versions of who they are. So I just want to acknowledge you, Brother Harvey, for being such a light. And I see myself there, and that was some years ago. And I've evolved. And I think I would have said that a little differently now, but the truth is still the truth. It's still my truth. I think my eyesight is even clearer. What I'm seeing is even clearer about why and the sense of urgency that I have, that we're the ones we've been waiting for. Let's get after it. Let's do this thing so that the lost can be found. I think that phrase is very appropriate for where I stand in my truth and my purpose. There are people who are lost in the pipeline of prison. There are those who are lost in adult literacy and they're paying the price in terms of financial literacy, health literacy, digital literacy. The lost can be found. There are leaders who don't know what they don't know, like I did when I was an assistant superintendent. They can be found. So it's a time to draw all men unto ourselves into this space of what is proven and then scaling it in a way that is responsible and is sustainable for all.
Well, it's funny you say that because when you're talking before about seeds being
Words are
words,
seeds.
seeds. The name of our company is Seedling. And then when you said, "Well, I would have said that differently," X amount of years ago, the name of our our production company is Captured Time. So as we grow, um, you capture time on a project like this, and it's a snapshot of everybody, and it's all these people that we build upon, and
Right.
thank you for saying those beautiful things. I mean, I like the end of the film, and I think that's because there's so many people's stories there, and stories are something that you read about if you're able to. You can hear about them by the fireplace. You know, we've done that for a long time as humanity, but
Right.
when dead people can talk to you, they write something down and they publish it in a book. Then they go off and they die, and it's Herman Melville or somebody like that. Next thing you know, I never knew I liked about whales, and call me Ishmael. I mean, it's just all of a sudden because it's a book. So, but what we did in this project now, because I'm an old guy and we've been doing this for a while, just like you said, it gets captured time in that. But our advocacy toolkit, and
Yes.
we can continue telling the story. That's where our podcasts go into that, and you're now giving us another part of it. This is like the behind the scenes in Star Wars. You're giving us more
Right.
information, and so you're in Houston, Texas, right?
Yes, that's where the House Education Center is headquartered, and but our stretch and reach has even gone international, which is just an incredible blessing.
Well, if somebody needed help in that area, how do they contact you? How do they find you? How do you help them? And who do you help more? I mean,
Yes.
I know we talk about beginning to help kids, but let's just talk about
Right.
that.
Well, let's talk about, yes, House Education Center was founded almost 45 years ago. Our 45th anniversary will be in 2025. First of all, we believe in the prevention of educator failure to prevent reading failure for children. We partner with universities. So there's an upstream issue of how teachers and leaders are apprenticed for this work, and they're not being apprenticed to scale the way they deserve to be to win at their work. So the next horizon for us is to really influence university preparation programs. We have literacy modules that we're working to infuse in those programs. And also, our delivery system, which is a supplemental curriculum, can help pre-service teachers, like a surgeon in an operating room, start using that scalpel, start using that sponge, start applying the science. Love that work, because then when they step into a classroom, they're ready to teach reading and win at their work. We know that literacy is at the heart of every content area. So if we don't get literacy right, I don't care if you build STEAM or STEM or any sexy initiative, military readiness, none of it's possible if we don't get that right. So my dream is to be able to do, through funding and support, also this work at the superintendent and the principal level and the curriculum and instruction level. When those individuals are apprenticed to scale that work responsibly, then we are truly being powerful in terms of the upstream issue. Desmond Tutu said, "Why do we keep fishing people out of the river downstream? Why don't we look upstream and figure out why they bought in the first place?" So that's where my heart is beating rapidly for change right now. Secondly, we prepare teachers to be able to provide intervention for children at tier 2, so that if they didn't get it the first time, they can pull them into that small group and they can intervene for them and fill those gaps in those holes, those potholes, literacy potholes. And then last of all, we're accredited by two bodies, a national and an international body, to prepare certified academic language therapists and practitioners. So those children at tier 3 who are brilliant, who are capable, or who may have other disabilities, doesn't matter. They can learn to read. The majority of those children can learn to read, and we want to make sure that they are equipped to be literate for life. So that is who we are. In addition to adult literacy, which you referenced earlier in our first half, um, I'm so proud of our team because at the beginning of the pandemic, I remember having a moment where I'm like, okay, Lord, what's next? How do we do this? Because with the pandemic, we've got to still continue to do our work. We have a mission. And I received an image, and it was, "You're going into a COVID chrysalis, reinvent yourself," which we did. So now we can reach people virtually all over the world, anywhere in the country, not just to deliver services and to apprentice teachers and coach them, but also for adults to learn to read. So back to my mama, had we not gone through that evolution with the pandemic, my mother wouldn't be receiving adult literacy services in Southfield, Michigan. So we can help adults read all over the world now, and all of our instructors are certified academic language therapists. Therapy is very expensive, and we have people getting it for free. We evaluate them for free. When I started, it wasn't completely free, but it is now. And we have the business leaders and other people who are saying, look, we want to be a part of this change, and they're helping to underwrite the program, and it's growing. And I'm so proud of that. So we wrap our arms around the entire family unit. It's not just one kid, because when an adult becomes literate, a whole family is lifted through literacy.
So a whole family, if anybody wanted to call you, so wait a minute, wait a minute. So you're helping. I love you guys. I love you. I love you. But so wait a minute. I'm the slowest guy in the room here. So you're helping the decision makers. You're helping the policy makers. You're helping the universities. You're helping the
Yes,
teachers get what they didn't get. Then you're helping the families, not just the kids, but the parents.
yes.
How do people find you?
Well, they can dial 713 664 7676. That's 713, pardon me, 664 7676. And I failed to mention, we also have a family support office. We have the parents who are beating their heads against the wall. Their kid can't read. Oh, he's developmentally just slower. You know, boys are slower than girls on developmentally. All the reasons why this kid is not literate. Trust your gut, mama. Trust your gut, daddy. Call us. Our family support office will help you navigate a path forward. What we're struggling with right now is we just don't have enough funding to do all the good work we desire to do. So, philanthropists out there, if you're listening, Mackenzie Scott, hello. The only thing that is a barrier to us doing more good work is funding. That's it. We are relentless, we are focused, and we are service oriented. And every dime we make, for example, I get paid for keynotes. Well, guess what? It goes right into our mission, right into our mission, so that we can provide scholarships for kids who need dyslexia services. We can provide adult literacy services. We can scholarship teachers who want to become therapists. It just goes right back in. We're just it flows in and it flows out to the society that needs us. So that's who we are.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's really amazing of how you do it and how you started. Okay, there's another story that you haven't, the prison story.
So when I worked for Scholastic, I met an amazing educator. And by the way, educators out there, you are VIPs. You are very important professionals. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not or dismiss your profession. Our work brings honor back to the profession. Harvey's work brings honor back to the profession, and you deserve honor and respect. Parents out there, thank a teacher for the sacrifices they make. Business leaders who want to talk about what teachers should do and be able to, I challenge you to spend a day in a school, spend a week in a school teaching and see what you think after that. They are, they are the true heroes, the hero's journey, those teachers who are boots on the ground and principals fighting the good fight. Back to the prison. So my friend Betty ended up with a very foolish principal, and this principal didn't respect what she was doing in terms of intervening for students. And so she quit. And she said, she stood up in her church. She said, I just quit my job and I need another door to open. That same week, she heard from someone who was in the prison system who was looking for an instructor. So Betty marches into the prison system doors and she starts becoming a GED teacher. Well, what did she find? She found that the critical mass of these men, poor, white, poor, black, poor, Hispanic, a common denominator was poverty. She had one person who was an award winning author who was drunk driving and ended up incarcerated. And he was her co teacher for these men. She would work on closing their reading deficits, and she knew enough about the Orton Gillingham methodology to be doing great work there. So Scholastic had her at one of their national conferences, and that's when I met her and absolutely fell in love with her. She was probably about is probably about 5'4", stout grandmotherly figure, sparkling blue eyes, jet black hair, just this twinkle in her eye, and you just want to hug her. She's just that cushy kind of motherly type of person. So she was talking about her men, as she called them, and they called her Mama Betty. And so I said, Betty, I would love to visit your men one day. She said, sure, come on, come visit. So she and one of my dearest friends who passed away in May of cancer recently, Tammy Clementi, Dr. Clementi, and I went to this maximum security prison in Livingston, Texas, where they house death row inmates as well. And I remember the just the chilling feel of walking through and going through security and seeing the men just kind of curious and watching these two pretty good looking women walking through, right? And it was just very kind of it was very scary. And then we went into the area where the classrooms were located, and we sat down, and in two groups of 30, Tammy and I basically interviewed the men like you're interviewing me, and we asked them for their stories. Warehoused in special education classrooms, dropped out, never learned to read, dyslexic and not identified till they were in prison, um, barriers to learning, um, parents selling drugs at home, um, anything you can imagine had happened to these men. Teachers are not just dealing with literacy issues. There are other barriers to learning that schools need to organize themselves to deal with, because teachers cannot be all things to all people. We have to deal with these other issues as well. But we can get literacy right, and that's what Betty was doing. So she would actually secure graduation caps and gowns. She would have graduations for them. Their families would come. It was a big deal. And some of these men were there for life. They were not getting out, but they realized that even behind bars, they could be liberated through literacy. And so I adore Betty. We're still very, very dear friends. The part that just totally blew my mind, though, was they planned a lovely meal for Tammy and me, and it was just an opulent meal, and all this food was laid out, and they took us to the library to have lunch afterwards, and some of the inmates were serving us with all of this loving kindness and big smiles, and then as I started to eat, I said, oh well, the leftovers, I know the guys are going to get to eat it. And then one of the guys said, oh no, miss, we're not allowed to have it. I totally lost my appetite. I couldn't eat anymore. I couldn't eat anymore because I thought literacy is like food, it nourishes our soul. And whether it's the physical benefit of just a meal and being able to order off a menu in freedom, or it's a meal that feeds our spirit, when people are not literate, these are the barriers. And they're generational. They're generational. Some of the men I spoke to said, I'm doing this so my children will know I got one thing right. I got my GED, and I'm telling them, you get educated too. So I promised them that day as we wrapped up our visit that Tammy and I would take their story all over wherever we went, and that's what I've done. I've been faithful to that. And I remember them making a circle around us, holding hands, and I saw, Aryan Nation brothers with tattoos all over their faces, black, brown, just fervently praying over us that we would be able to stand in the gap for children out there who they had been, so that they would not fall through the cracks into the pipeline to prison. So I take that charge very seriously.
Wow. Um. Wow. Um. Yeah, I could talk to you all day. We're gonna run out of time. We're talking about Hopeville. We're talking about um, Nyhouse. But what if you have a magic wand, which you do? I know you. You have a magic wand, and you won't fail, and you could wave it. What would happen in the future? How do we make it a different place? What if
Yes. Harvey, we need to reinvent education from the brass tacks up. And if we did that and we dreamed about what schools could be, I have a dream that schools would be the center of community wellness, mind, body, and spirit. That it would not be about a high stakes test that's a snapshot of one day for a child who might be having a terrible day, but that we would look formatively at how a child is growing in a system, that we would have community gardens at every school so that diabetes would be lowered, so that people know how to feed this temple that we've been given. We only get one, we don't get a second one. How do we take care of ourselves in terms of our bodies? How do we take care of our intellects? Where every teacher and leader would be equipped to apprentice um, children in the literacy, the structure of the language, so that generationally that literacy transfer would occur. I envision schools where there would be music and theater and production like this, and the opportunity to activate their greatest creative gifts and abilities, where their physical fitness would be just a matter of fact. They would know how to, they would be able to do sports and the things that teach us how to lead and to follow. I have a dream that these schools would close gaps for parents and bring healing to family systems where there would be counseling, and the counselors wouldn't be focused on testing, but on group therapy and ways of breaking those generational cycles and trauma that have been holding families back, that there would be financial literacy and children would not become borrowers but lenders, that they would know not to get into credit debt, and they would understand financial literacy, health literacy, digital literacy, and that they would be the ones who become the ones who shape how digital literacy is used to bring light. Because anything that we create as human beings, it can bring darkness or light, and our children would be the ones who have the moral imperative to make sure it brings light and life to society. That's my dream, and that's what I'm in pursuit of.
From your lips to God's ears. I love that. I love that, and
And
I love you. What else?
I
What
love
else do we
you too.
need to think about before we end today? Anything else? Any last thoughts?
Yes, and this is an acronym that I share with educators all over the country, and I want to share it with our listeners today. We can operate in two ways. We can operate based on fear or faith. Fear, if we use it as an acronym, is often false evidence appearing real. A lot of things we're afraid of really are just a boogeyman that doesn't even exist. Sometimes there are things that we genuinely should be concerned about, but we can't bow down to fear. The greatest things that I've done in my life, often I did it with my knees knocking together. I did it afraid until I wasn't anymore. We have the option of walking by faith. And my acronym for faith that was spiritually breathed into me is that of focused adults intervening tenaciously with hope. Hope is not a strategy. The tenacity is the strategy where we will hold on to the right things and not let go no matter what the forces are against us. So each of us are a container of power. We get to choose on our journey how we will operate. And as for me and my house, we choose faith. Choose faith, whatever it is that you're doing to be the difference in the world. And you can be that light that dispenses the darkness. Send it packing.
Dr. Tracy Weeden, I love you and I love your message. And as always, it's wonderful talking with you. You're changing the
I
world, and I want to change the
absolutely.
world with you.
That's right. And thank you for the privilege and the honor of being with you today. Big heart for you.
Big heart, big heart.